Despite a lot of Pokemon being considered legendary, some of these just don't make the cut in competitive play. So we're here today to talk about the worst legendary Pokemon in Regulation G. These are the things that you're just going to see pop up on ladders for some like cheeky best of one teams, but you're rarely going to see brought to an actual competition. So first and foremost, and it's a sad day, Mewtwo. Mewtwo is so cool. It's such a good design. It's very, just kind of minimalist, but very powerful and intimidating looking. But it sucks. It's not good. Its special attack stats fantastic, but it's just it's not fast enough to do things anymore. That's the problem that Mewtwo faces. In the current format, what you're probably going to see the most out of Mewtwo is probably just something along the lines of like Choice Scarf with Indeedee. You're going to Choice Scarf with Indeedee and you're going to run Expanding Force, and this is going to be the bread and butter of Mewtwo, right? You're going to have like Dark Pulse on this thing as well, maybe like Shadow Ball, and then maybe like another Psychic Stab, just so you can actually like do some damage if they have Wide Guard options. But this is going to be like the standard Mewtwo stuff that you're going to see, because the fact of the matter is, why would you run this with Expanding Force when you could just run Calyrex Shadow and just have a better Pokemon all around? So Mewtwo suffers in that regard. It's just been power crept over time, and it's just not that great in Scarlet and Violet at all. Solgaleo is an interesting one because I don't think Solgaleo is bad. I think Solgaleo is like fairly decent Pokemon. The problem is it really, really wants that extra restricted Pokemon to help it. Because Full Metal Body is a pretty useful ability. Being able to ignore stat changes from things like Incineroar really gives you the option to run other items on this Pokemon. Now in Sword and Shield, it was really popular to run like Weakness Policy on this, because you could Dynamax it, you could go for something like Bulldoze or something, and be able to proc the Weakness Policy and then do really big damage with Solgaleo while it was Dynamax. And this was a really fun Pokemon to use. However, I don't think it's as good with Terastallization. Weakness Policy self-procs are just not something that you see a ton of in this game, because you don't get the double health benefit that Dynamax gave you, which is really unfortunate for a lot of these Pokemon that really enjoyed that, looking at Colossal especially. So Solgaleo hurts because of this reason. There's still other things that you could do. You could run Life Orb, but at the end of the day, there's just better coverage options. As far as steel typing goes, like you could just run Zamazenta and just have a better steel coverage in general, and it's just a much better Pokemon all around. You're having issues with Calyrex Shadow. You're kind of forced to Terra in the face of that. You're having issues with Koraidon. You're having issues with Groudon. There's just a lot of things that Solgaleo doesn't play nicely into in this format, and it doesn't have the coverage, in my opinion, to be able to deal with a lot of the threats that the format will throw at it. So for that reason, this Pokemon also just kind of took a fall. It's not as good as it once was. Now Kyurem is interesting, mainly because its ability sucks. Its ability sucks. Pressure doesn't matter. You don't care about that, and it kind of has the issue where you'd much rather just run it in one of its variants, whether it be Kyurem White or Kyurem Black. They're just better options. I mean, it doesn't have as high a special attack stat or anything like that. It's just not as good. It's just not as good as its variant. So it kind of just fell off for that reason. I mean, ideally, you'd probably just run this as you would any other like Blizzard spammer, with like Terra Ice Blizzard next to Alola Ninetales. This is probably the only way you'll ever see this Pokemon played. It's just a very, very mid legendary Pokemon. Where's Terra Ice? There it is. Very mid legendary Pokemon that just doesn't have a ton of play, because it evolves. Essentially, it evolves into two other Pokemon that are just inherently better than this. Giratina. This counts as Giratina origin form as well. I don't think Giratina is terrible. I think there is play to be had with Giratina. It doesn't like Flutter Mane very much. It doesn't like Calyrex Shadow Rider, doesn't like Calyrex Ice Rider. There's a lot of things that Giratina doesn't like, and that hurts it in the format. But Giratina is still fun. It's still a good, fun Pokemon to use, and for that reason, I think some people will throw it on some teams. I, again, don't think it's going to be anything crazy, or it's not going to pop up a ton, but it is going to be present, and for that reason, I think it's cool. I like Giratina. It's a fun Ghost-type Pokemon. I love Ghost-type Pokemon. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what you're really doing with it. There was actually a team. Let me see if I can find it. I found it. This is the coolest Giratina team that I've seen so far. It's Giratina with good stuffs, and I'm here for it, right? So the idea of this particular Giratina team, and this comes from Wanda Lee over on Twitter, I'll have it linked in the description below. This team uses Giratina as a Hex user. You're going ahead and set Calm Minds and use Grimmsnarl to then subsequently lay Thunder Waves, and you could just Hex stuff. Very, very cool idea for a Giratina team, and this is easily the coolest variation of Giratina that I've seen thus far. And I think that this is kind of the way you're going to want to play this, and then surround it with other good stuffs. But again, it has so many weaknesses in the format right now that it's just gonna struggle into. So it does have a lot of problems in the format, and it just doesn't have the typing to make up for it, and it kind of sucks being forced to use it as your Terra target. Reshiram and Zekrom. First off, let's talk about Zekrom. Zekrom really struggles from the fact that it's forced to run Clear Amulet, and Kyurem Black just is better. You can run Kyurem Black and get the snow benefit and have the bonus defense, and have similar coverage, and it's just better, right? If you're gonna run a Dragon Electric type, you're kind of forced into the scenario where you're gonna want to run either Ragey Bolt or Mewtwo. Those are the Pokemon that are just better than Zekrom all around. So it's kind of tough to justify putting this Pokemon on a team, which sucks, because I think both Reshiram and Zekrom are cool, and I would love to see them on teams. They're just power crept. And that's the thing with a lot of these Pokemon, is they're just power crept over time. It just has a brutal effect on your ability to actually play some of these Pokemon. And the same goes for Reshiram. Reshiram is really powerful with a 150 base special attack, but it's outsped. Its defenses are pretty decent. I think of the Pokemon, this one has some play in some double restricted formats. I think that this one on like Sun teams could be really cool and very powerful. But I think in the current format, if you're going to run a Dragon Fire type, or if you're going to just have that kind of coverage, running something like Koraidon is just ultimately better for your team as a whole. So I think in double restricted, that Reshiram actually has a chance to be pretty decent and could be really fun. I just don't think in the single restricted format that this Pokemon's really going to pop up when you have Kyurem White. That is just so much better, being able to slam Blizzard, being able to go for the same signature move with Fusion Flare. It has more coverage options. It gets the defensive bonus from Alola Ninetales. It's just better in a single restricted format. But again, I think that there is some wiggle room for play with Reshiram come the double restricted formats. I think that this one over Zekrom is going to have a lot more play. Now, Necrozma Dusk Mane, which is kind of surprising. This Pokemon has a pretty decent ability with Prism Armor. Taking 3 force damage from super effective attacks is really, really cool. Plus, pairing that with the fact that you can Terastallize and change what is super effective against you, there's a lot of things that can benefit you in the form of Necrozma. But the issue with this Pokemon is it's mid-speed tier. And it has the similar weaknesses as Solgaleo that a lot of Pokemon just deal with effectively in the format. It just takes too much to get rolling, in my opinion, and this one is kind of forced into that Clear Amulet scenario because you lose Full Metal Body that the Solgaleo has, so you're kind of forced into the Clear Amulet scenario and kind of stuck going for like Swords Dance stuff. You have a lot of issues with Necrozma specifically in the current format. It's just a Pokemon that really, really struggles to deal with a lot of the threats in the format, and for that reason I just don't think it's that good. Necrozma Dawn Wings is so much better as a Trick Room Pokemon. It's just really, really solid in the format, but this one, it just doesn't have the tools necessary to deal with a lot of the threats. Kyurem Black, I mentioned that this is better than Zekrom. It's just not that good though. Once again, you're forced into that Clear Amulet scenario where you really need this to survive. And there's just better options, like so you could run, like, you don't even get Icicle Crash. Gee, many. So the one I played in a video was Loaded Dice with Icicle Spear. The problem with this is, once again, Incineroar, right? Incineroar is everywhere right now, and it's really, really difficult to deal with that particular threat if you're not running Clear Amulet. And the fact that this doesn't get anything like Icicle Crash really hurts this. It really, really hurts this Pokemon's ability to do good damage. Where Ice Fang, really? Like, this thing just has no coverage. What are we doing here? This is crazy. I can't with this. Wow. Okay. So, yeah, it just doesn't get a good ice coverage move. I mean, I guess you have Avalanche, which you'd have to take a hit first, so that's not fun. It's just not super great as far as its coverage, and you're kind of forced to not run the Clear Amulet and be neutered by Incineroar just to get your Icicle Spears off. To have a decent stab ice move on this Pokemon, that's just brutal. You do have access to Fusion Bolt. You have Scale Shot on this thing. So this is kind of what you'd probably end up running. It doesn't feel good. I mean, maybe pair this with like a Weezing, a Galarian Weezing, or a standard Weezing to get rid of Intimidate, and that's probably your best bet for letting this Pokemon do some damage, but it just doesn't feel good. I didn't even realize it had such horrible options as far as ice stabs go. This is why Kyurem White is just far superior. Calyrex, why would you use this? Why would you use this? What is the point of using Calyrex base form when you have Shadow Rider and Ice Rider that are just so much better? Look at this base stat total. Why would you I don't even have to talk about what you would run on this Pokemon. Why would you ever use this Pokemon over the other forms? That is what this Pokemon suffers from. It is very, very mid. Finally, we have Ho-Oh. This is the last one on this list. I think Ho-Oh has potential. It is a strong Pokemon. I am not going to discredit that. It's just not great in a single restricted format. I think double restricted, much like I said with Reshiram, you have more potential for Ho-Oh to pop off and be really, really cool. It gets access to Regenerator. It has Sacred Fire. You could run like I mean, this one does like Clear Amulet too, but you could even run Assault Vest, and like this thing gets U-turn, right? No. Oh, hold on, I might have lied. I thought I got U-turn, so probably Clear Amulet with Sacred Fire, Brave Bird. What else do we got here? What did I run? I used this in a team, and I don't remember what I ran. Oh, it gets Earthquake. Earthquake's an option, and then you could do Protect, right? Something like this. Just good coverage, strong damage, and then the 50% chance to burn is always nice. On a Sun team in a double restricted format, I think Ho-Oh has so much more potential than it does currently. Like I said, it is a strong Pokemon with that Regenerator ability. Regenerator is so good. Being able to swap in and out and get that health back really helps this Pokemon. So I think you definitely have some play with this in double restricted, but as it sits in the single restricted format, it's mid. It's mid. It's not seeing a ton of play. Even Lugia is seeing play. Lugia with Comfey, being able to set up Calm Minds and then Comfey heal it back up, so you constantly have the multi-scale activated. Very, very good Pokemon, and it actually did fairly decently at Indianapolis Regionals. I think it even was on stream at one point. Just a really cool Pokemon right now, and there's a handful of different ways that you can play it. Versus Ho-Oh really struggles compared to its counterpart Lugia. So those are the worst restricted Pokemon. A lot of them were just like those power creep scenarios, or they have other forms that are just inherently better. But I just wanted to make this video. I thought it'd be fun to talk about some of the lesser used Pokemon in the format and some potential ways to use them if they're worth using, like Giratina, like Ho-Oh, like Necrozma. This thing's not bad. Going into Mewtwo, talking about how to use Mewtwo, Solgaleo. There's Pokemon that are worth using, I think, in the online ladder, but in tournament settings, not so much. So I just wanted to highlight them. If you guys enjoyed, sub if you're not already, and if you want to share Reg G teams that may be featured in future videos, be sure to check out the Discord. But until next time, peace.